The answer will be found in the history of failed and successful Africa. Because there are two, really one can now clearly talk about the failed Africa and then successful Africa to a large extent. The history of slave trade is testimony enough that Uganda and the entire Africa, we did fail ourselves. The history of colonization, where recently the president said that we are democratically colonized, except Ethiopia, who won against the Italians at the Battle of Adwa in 1896. But the 1896.
Yes.
That the rest of us were colonized. So that was failed Africa. Then you come to neocolonialism, the period of the Cold War, when dictators flourished because they belonged to the so-called the right spheres of influence. If it was the West, they didn't do anything. As long as you are with them, they never minded about what was happening to your own people. Then to post-Cold War conflicts, when Africa became synonymous with the conflicts. West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, even the South, because we were still at it to chase out the apartheiders. So Uganda is part of that failed history. Now, post-independence Africa, again, Ugandan leadership failed to learn lessons of the past. What happened? Why were we colonized? What happened? How come that at the time of independence, Uganda, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, they were at the same level of development, same GDPs. What happened that they left us and we are where we are? Failing to learn lessons of history. And as a result, they inherited a military which they would have transformed into a people's military. But these are black guys but with the white mentality or colonizers mentality. Then they did not improve until they were used for the gains of the politicians. And those who are being used to make the political leaders kings, they decided to make themselves to become kings. And this is when we have Amin, whom we would not have had if the mutiny of 1964 was sorted out in the favor of the people. But it was not, because they mutinied in the demand of allowances, in demand of promotion, better facilities. And the country had just become independent only 2 years. Where would the resources come from? But they were given all that they wanted, and there we got Amin. So where is the difference between us and those countries you have mentioned, having fewer armies in the same period of post-independence? So whereas in ours were rewarded, in Kenya there was a little bit of mixed measures, toughness and kid gloving. There were promotions, there were allowances given, postings and transfers. But that did not help them. It also attracted them to 1982 Air Force coup, attempted coup. But by that time, the Kenyan state had matured and they managed to beat that coup and reorganize the Kenyan armed forces. And I think that's why they were saved from repeated coups and counter coups, which we didn't survive. In Tanzania, the late Julius Nyerere, having been a well-learned man, a Pan-Africanist, a patriot, having learned lessons of slave trade, of colonization, and neocolonialism, he took a decisive action by disbanding an entire mutineering force and replacing it with another one, which he rightly named TPDF, Tanzanian People's Defense Forces. So why does Uganda have so many militaries and Tanzania has one? That is Nyerere's decision. that others failed to take. And as a result, Uganda, for almost a quarter of a century, we have had those governments come and go, militaries come and go, and until time came when a decision had to be taken in the pursuit of the ultimate interests of the people, to put people at the heart of governance.
The President and the Commander-in-Chief has lauded UPDF for its discipline. How have you managed to achieve this despite being the lowest paid military in the region?
Well, that again, the discipline nature of UPDF is not a yesterday's matter. It has a historical perspective, and it has to be contextualized. Now, when the previous militaries failed, and when did they fail in the open for all to see? This was when, again, they mutinied at the time they shouldn't. This was when, in 1978-79, when the Ugandan liberators, led by our current President Commander-in-Chief, supported by Nyerere with TPDF, they emerged to take on Idi Amin's force. It melted away like an early morning dew. And it came to 1980. Ugandans hoped that the political and military leaders had learned lessons of the past. But like some Spanish philosopher said during the General Franco dictatorship, he said that the Spanish people had learned or not had either learned or forgotten nothing in history. So the Ugandans were true to that General Franco's times Spanish philosopher when he said they had learned nothing and forgotten nothing. They were at it to one another again, and Ugandans went into an election, and the election was stolen, and the soldiers participated in stealing of the election, intimidating and wreaking anarchy. Now, at that time, that's when our president and commander-in-chief with few patriots decided that enough was that enough. That the time had come to recreate a government of the people, for the people and by the people, to create a soldier serving the people and from the people. So a liberation war was launched in 1981 after attack of Kabamba, and it lasted 5 years. In the bush, the new thinking was consolidated. A people-based governance where people participate. A soldier who put the civilians first. The questions were always that were not correctly answered. Who was the master of who? Was it the soldier or the people? But in the bush, that was sufficiently inculcated in the soldier that the people are the masters and the soldiers are the servants. So throughout the bush war, that new thinking emerged, new education emerged. Recently I was reading a magazine, a Nigerian magazine called Soja. They were interviewing, I think, the late Ojukwu, the then leader of the rebellion, of the Biafran rebellion. He said no education is complete without soldiering. So one can say, for us, no education would be complete unless there was sojourn with freedom fighting or liberation struggle. So out of the bush into government, the NRM came with a new soldier. So one could call it a soldiering watershed, 1986. The departure from a failed soldier who was brutal and was a master of the people, to a soldier who put the people first, not only for the security and the safety of the people, but their welfare. And that was the time, that's the beginning of discipline in the UPDF. But discipline in the UPDF also has not been secured by speeches and training alone. but also by firm hand, by zero tolerance of indiscipline. In the bush in 1982, one soldier of NRA who committed a heinous crime of raping a daughter of a freedom fighter who had given NRA a bush to hide themselves as they planned the operations, was tried and put on firing squad. So it has been education tampered with harsh actions to say we will not tolerate this. So these are the beginnings of discipline of the UPDF, of the then NRA and UPDF, which has stood the test of time, which has won admiration, not only the people of Uganda, but also some of the people in the region and the international community. But I'll be coming back to this discipline when I talk about training.
Now, at some point in our history, especially in the late 90s, early 2000, the UPDF was notorious for ghost soldiers, poor accountability, and that has become part of the past. What has been the secret to change this?
Yes, that one is also the changeover, the fundamental changeover from doing an unprofessional things is also embedded in the three fundamental contributions we have given to this country. Number one is liberation. Liberation. The mission of liberating people has always been with us, that we cannot do anything else to undermine that fundamental gain that had been given to the won by the people of the liberation. So whereas there was always been stumbling in doing an unprofessional things, but we stumbled and got up and then straightened ourselves and moved on. So it's in the message that the liberators cannot do things that can undermine the gains of liberation. Number two, the cause of defending the gains of liberation. You recall, Colonel Kureja, that the power was taken in 1986 in January, but hardly a year, in August of the same year, the counter-revolutionary elements who had run into Sudan were rearmed and they staged a comeback. And as intelligence has been telling us so far, we've been battling about 25 terrorists and insurgents. And so that cause of defending the state, defending the gains of the people, has also always helped to collect us when we fall off the path of doing what the people expect us.
PJ Facts.
Mission number three, or contribution number three, consolidating the gains of liberation, defending the gains of liberation, which is really providing an enabling environment for transformation of the country. So we cannot therefore not be consolidating the gains and then ourselves do things that undermine them by weakening the capacity which originally gave them these gains. So when we stumbled, yes, people became selfish. They abandoned the revolutionary path. Some of them, not all, some, there were some leaders who decided to center themselves, to be selfish, to be self-centered, and to forget that still ours was an unaccomplished mission. We had a mission to accomplish, and we could not do anything that could undermine that mission, like falsifying the strengths of the army, undermining the capacity of a soldier by underfeeding the soldier, by undermining the capacity of the army by making the leadership to overspend on food which would not have been spent on, to overspend on the salary of the people who have not been there, and then fail to acquire weapons. In other words, I remember when I became the army commander 2003, President asked, what do I have? I have no personnel, I have no weapons, and I have no money. So what do I do? I need to get one of these. And the decision was taken, an inquiry was conducted, and some leaders had been found to have guilty. But again, later on, since we believe in the rule of law, later on the court, our General Court Martial, set free some of them, telling us that the inquiry did not produce evidence, sufficient evidence. But otherwise, that was a stumbling, but we reorganized ourselves and started delivering on the three tasks of the constitutional given mandate. Because also that was our challenge after 1995, to know that the constitution, the people had required us to do three things. One, to protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the country. And then you cannot protect the territorial integrity when you don't have soldiers and you don't have equipment. Then number two, that we come to the aid of civil authority. That is when that we are called upon either to support the Uganda Police Force or to support civilian in an event of a calamity like Bududa. And then you cannot do that unless you have the people and you have equipment. Then number three, to become productive. Even you cannot be productive unless you have people and then you have equipment. So with that profound sense of mission accomplishment, we've made mistakes, but we have come back to correct them, and we have been correcting them. So by now, we removed all the temptations which were there. Even when people would not have been corrupt, we did not have credible, professional, and world-class standards like of managing money. Because a paymaster collected money in his briefcase, reaching Kawempe, he diverted, went back to the car park, he took a bus, and we heard that he had reached the Kenyan border on his way to Kenya, and we wondered whether our brigade had been posted from Kitugumu to Kenya. Then the stories of Yakutaga, when we had a mission in Congo, Yakutaga captain at that time taking their salary, and we heard that Yakutaga had melted away. We are tracing him, and we have never found where Yakutaga. We don't know whether he's alive or whether he died. But those measures have been now professionalized and standardized. The soldier has no business with his paymaster. He has a business with his bank and his ATM card. So the government gives us the salary of soldiers through Treasury, Bank of Uganda, and money goes to accounts of soldiers, whoever they are. So as soldiers access the accounts with the ATM cards, so those temptations have gone away. We have also computerized the entire strength of the UPDF. We have in the computer, your photograph is there, your thumbprint is there, your biodata is there. So if you turn up to take money at Lila Bank and you say you are Aronda, when the account has the particulars of Koleje, certainly you will not take that money. But when all these things happened, we had not reached that. So computerization of our strength, of our personnel, has also helped us to consolidate professionalization and modernization of the UPDF. And this financial year, we are embarking on automating the logistics of the UPDF to remove some other gray areas that are still remaining.
You have touched professionalization, and indeed some of the elements you have mentioned are a product of that. What have been the challenges you have faced as the leader of this military in implementing the Commander-in-Chief's vision, professionalize?
The challenges are like many armies would meet. Some are global, some are particular to a country, given our unique and different histories. So you will not find universalized challenges, but there are some of those that are quite universal. Like some of the challenges, like one, we have a challenge of terrorism. The challenge of terrorism, where we have found out that that terrorism knows no borders. Terrorism knows no borders, knows no race, and we've also known that they are recently when we are struck 2010 in July during the World Cup, you find out that it also there is an element of homegrown. There's some element of homegrown elements who support terrorism, but also there is regional terrorism. You find elements operating in the region. So homegrown element, regional element, and then global element, all working for the same cause of extremism. So that one, we are not yet done with it. We are not done with it, terrorism, and we will keep training, keep vigilant, keep working with sister armed forces in the region with all global efforts to deal with terrorism. So that's a challenge that still faces us. We still have a challenge within the region of some countries in the neighborhood which still have ungoverned spaces, which at times they provide sanctuary to negative forces or terrorists. Like today, to have up to now, almost 20 years down the road, that the Congo state still harbors ADF in an area which has been proven to be really thinly governed. There is thin presence of government. So that's a challenge to have such a neighborhood. And when we launched Operation Lightning Thunder, we've been spending some time in the Central African Republic. So you still find some areas which are thinly governed where extremists or negative forces can base themselves and destabilize countries. The other one is a challenge of media, because the media, some of the media elements have gone to excesses, gone too far. So there is a challenge of keep putting into context what media says, to correct the distortions caused by the media. But because there is an explosion of media, which somehow has been distorted by the internet, quite a number of social platforms, we have to gear up ourselves to confront this challenge that is posed by multiplicity of media types, which at times they mind about what they say, not what they damage. And particularly in our country, we have seen the types that are geared at damaging the image of the UPDF. Like recently I saw in the New York Times and the Monitor running around with the story of poaching. I use this opportunity to say UPDF, we are, apart from being combat ready to defend the people, we are also time-tested conservationists. We conserve. We are the ones who provided the force to UWA, the Uganda Wildlife Authority, protect our national parks, because we know the fundamental contribution which tourism provides to economic growth. So we cannot be the one who know that in the short term, the military can provide national security, but the long term national security can only be provided by a healthy economy. So with our education, with our patriotism, we cannot undermine that long term of undermining the tourism, which contributes immensely to the growth of the economy, and the growth of the economy providing the only anchor to national security. So such stories of poaching are fabricated, are put out to damage us, and there is no truth, not a single grain of truth, and we dismiss them as an unhelpful rumors. And we investigated this matter with MINUSCO and Congolese. No one has come up with a piece of evidence. So that's the media, the challenge we will live with, but we live in an open country. I'm not calling for censorship, but I'm calling for greater sense of responsibility of some of the members of the media fraternity to know that they have a role to play in the security of this country. There is cyber warfare. Advanced countries are coming up with all sorts of technologies, if we are not careful, which could almost cripple us, because all our work has become computerized. We will not do much without computerization. Our efficiency and effectiveness is not as a result because of doing our work through the computers. But we have to remain watchful and vigilant about this cyber warfare, which advanced countries could resort to. Having failed to challenge us on the battlefield with guns, they could use sophistication of technology. The other challenge is the existence of technological gap. There is a gap between us and those advanced countries. Whereas when they are in space, when we fight on the ground, you say you can take cover behind a tree, you can take cover behind an anthill. But if someone is in space looking down, then you have nowhere to take cover. He's watching you, using all sorts of means. So there is this gap which we must gear up to catch up on. The weapon systems themselves have become highly computerized. It's a high-tech weapons. So we must continue investing in recruiting young, educated people, continue training them to catch up with these technological developments. We must keep in step with technological developments in the world. And the UPDF, under the guidance of the leadership, this far, the gap is not as worrying as it used to be, because we have appropriate weapons to guard this country, highly advanced in technology, and we have also trained our soldiers and officers in this technology, and we are continuing. But having said all that, again, the challenge of having reasonable resources to keep our focus on sustained professionalization and transformation of the UPDF in order to guarantee sustainability of peace, security, and development of our country.
Thank you, sir. Now, given again the history which we went through at the very beginning, what would you find as the challenges that the UPDF face as opposed to our previous colleagues, UNLA and Uganda Army?
Today, as you interviewed me, I can say from Chisoro, the Muhabura Mountains, to Lamo, to Agoro Mountains, from Kasese, Bundubujo, the Rwenzori mountain ranges, up to Eragon, in Eragon sub-region, our country is peaceful. So what has happened? What has happened? Certainly by 1962, we had a peaceful country. Things beginning falling apart by 1964, and was in 1966, like Chinua Achebe wrote, when the center can no longer hold, things fall apart. Things began falling apart until the country had to be liberated in 1986. So, after 1996, there are quite two Ugandas I can talk about. There's an old Uganda and a new Uganda. An old Uganda beginning to take shape in 1964 all the way to 1986. And the characteristics have been very well articulated by the president in the areas of the economy growing in the negative, that the rule of law having been replaced by no law at all, witnessed by extrajudicial killings. The low levels of communication, low levels of socio-economic transformation or development. So, when we come into power, the NRA and later on UPDF will begin doing things differently. And those things we have done, again, they have been articulated by the president, guided by the vision that we should take the country from third world conditions to first world conditions. That's the vision. From poverty, medium income, to prosperity, to first modern, to a modern country. So UPDF has been at the forefront of implementation of that vision. Now the implementation of that vision is what sets us apart from the previous armies. And what helps us, what makes us tick? Number one, as I said, is, first of all, on Karamoja. I mentioned Karamoja for not wanting to forget it. Karamoja, you'll find a home for it. For Karamoja, I think post-colonial, to colonial, to independence, even as late as the 1990s with NRM, we had almost a state unto a state. A lawless state called Karamoja, with individuals who turned themselves into warlords, who started doing activities that really were not very far away from insurgency. Driving millions of people into IDPs, the neighboring districts. Setting people into fear, permanent fear into Karamoja, and delaying development. So one of the fundamental achievements as we go to celebrate our 50 years of independence, I believe my leaders will be talking to the success story of Karamoja. When the roads are all passable, feeder roads and main trunk roads, when business is done day and night in Karamoja, when livestock is safe and secure, when we used to have protected clouds, when you no longer kill and only compensate 60 cows, you are taken to court. The magistrates had run away from Karamoja. When there is law and order, because police, Uganda police is in deployment, has been deployed, is in operational, is law and order. But no policeman would arrest a Karamojong man even by 1996 and 97, even way back into almost 2003, 2004. So, the development that is taking place in Karamoja is again a testimony about those things we do uniquely from the previous armies. But what has set us aside, apart from those other armies, is one, the vision of transforming the country. That one is inculcating that vision in the rank and file, and being championed by the leaders of the UPDF is one strong element of what is differentiates us from the previous armies when they did not know where they had come from, they did not know where they were, and they did not know even where the country was going. And the wisdom is that if you don't know where you have come from and where you are going, the likelihood is that you will not know where you are going and you'll never get there. And they never got there. And that's why they were defeated in 1979 and defeated by NRA, which was just 20 kilometers from the seat of power in Kampala, around Matuga areas, just 20 kilometers, having started with only 27 guns, with only 27 freedom fighters joined by others who are not armed and were armed later on, making a figure of almost 41. How would 27 guns build an army or an armed force that now has secured the country and has immensely contributed to stabilizing the region? So the differences are self-explanatory because we've been guided by the vision. Number two, we evolved a training strategy that makes a UPDF sergeant officer not only combat ready, not only civil military relations ready, not only diplomatic relations ready, but also self-confident. And time and again, we have outlined the elements of this training which sets us apart from the previous armies in this country. Number one is training to when you are on the battlefield, first of all, you save yourself by firing, not aimlessly, but firing accurately and taking away the enemy. So it has been one bullet, one enemy. Because we train you that your country still needs you. We need you. We need you to serve longer. Don't go on the battlefield carelessly, fire in the air, fire aimlessly, and all that. So we emphasize the training that is based on acquiring super skills of marksmanship. So that's why largely we have won our wars at home and abroad by training well. So the training package is it gives a greater sense of mission accomplishment. You don't go on the battlefield to waste time. There is a sense of mission. Then there is discipline. Since the Bush into government, today as we take an interview and far deeper into the future, UPDF will remain a disciplined people's force, people's soldier, people's officer. And this discipline is based on the virtues of perseverance. Even when you go into the hardest conditions, you are in a Galamba forest, you are on the top of Rwenzori Mountains, you are in Morongwe Mountains in Kabongo, you are in Imatongo Mountains of Southern Sudan, and you are in broken buildings of Somalia. One could cut and go, said, why are we here for? But that sense of mission, that sense of people protection is what gives them discipline and gives them perseverance. And you cannot persevere unless you are disciplined. If you are not gaining personally, you just cut and go. The quality of selflessness. You are in this because you know someone has to do it. The people have armed you. First of all, the parents have sent you. They believe when you join others, you will secure them.
PJ Facts. PJ Facts.
So government arms you, uniforms you, pays you, and then the leaders give you the mission. So now, whatever the challenges, whatever the difficulties, whatever the roadblocks, you keep along the path. It's like this selflessness. You compare it. I want you to compare it with the first principle of war: selection and the maintenance of the aim. So you are in it, whether it's tough, it's raining, it's shining, it's in the desert, it's a jungle. You know you have a mission to accomplish. So you go on. Self-sacrifice. You have to die a little. You have to die a little. Die a little. You have to do. You have to be. You have to defend the people. You have to think for others. You have to think for others. You have to have others savior. You have to be others savior. So it's important that we know where this discipline comes from: perseverance, selflessness, and self-sacrifice. And as a result, the difference here between us and the previous armies, even when they were disciplined, they only relied on mechanical discipline. You are disciplined because you fear law. You are disciplined because you fear the leaders are around. You are disciplined because there are some physical barriers, there are fences, The others are electrified. They are gates. That was what gave them some sort of discipline. But for us, even we live in fenceless barracks because we have not been having even a budget to fence our barracks. And some of our gates even are not well protected. The discipline they have is conscious. The ability to differentiate doing wrong and right. The internalized discipline to know that you are there by yourself to do good. So the internalized discipline is what differentiates us from the past. Whereas others believed or relied on mechanical discipline, for us we rely on internalized discipline, which is nurtured by professionalism. It springs from professionalism. And that professionalism is what we concentrate when we are training. The other point that fundamentally sets us aside from the previous armies is political education, which has at times been misunderstood. Political education is just making UPDF officers and men and girls and females to know the difference between being on the side of a just cause and an unjust cause. That whoever you join, you know you have joined for the right cause. When you go for a battle, you know you are in that battle for a just cause. And that justness can only be inculcated into a soldier by well-structured political education courses. And the UPDF, political education is mandatory because we believe to accomplish our mission, our soldiers and officers must be well educated politically to understand where the country has been, where it is, and where it is going, and most of all, how to get where we are going. And this is the modern country, Uganda, that we are talking that in the next 50 years, Uganda will be in the first world. Also, in this political education, it finally inculcates into soldiers to understand the soldiers are under civilian authority. Whereas the previous one, it was the rule of the gun and the rule of the soldier. But now soldiers know what the civilians decide, and especially based on the constitution, is what goes. It has helped us to consolidate the strategic relationship between the military and the people. That is a difference. That's a whole book about it, a whole book of its own. Whereas Amin's army was more armed, and I think better prepared than the Tanzanian army. They could have had a good fight. But because the Amin's army had become what Mao Zedong called that in order to survive, the fish must survive in the water, must swim well in the water. If you dry water, the fish will die. So UA's water had been dried by me denied the support of the people of Uganda when the Tanzanians advanced. That's why they could not be given correct intelligence. That's why they could not even fight. So we learned lessons of the past that the people of Uganda had suffered, and that those who ignored the importance of the people will not survive, and therefore it became part of the political education of the soldiers that do whatever you are doing, but put people first. And we have been with them all these battles since 1986, since 1981, to today in Somalia, in Central African Republic, in the DRC. We do not only put the people of Uganda first, but we put the African people first, or wherever people are. And it has helped us to win our battles against LRA in Central African Republic. We've been insisting that wherever we are, with the meager resources we have, our medical personnel and our health units are put to the disposal of the people whom we want to protect or to liberate. Our hospital has done a tremendous work to win the hearts and minds of the Somalis. It was contributory. Our field hospital at Nzara has done a tremendous work to win hearts and minds of Southern Sudan people and Central African people and some nearby the Congolese, because it's the only referral hospital in that area. Our hospital at Obo has done wonders to win hearts and minds of the Central African people. So, political education has given us that mighty weapon which when brought on the battlefield, you cannot defeat UPDF. And it's in so to speak, other armies, they take weapons like a helicopter, like a tank, like an engineering equipment, are the most important force multiplier. Yes, I know it's a force multiplier, but the UPDF was the biggest force multiplier. It's its political consciousness and its discipline. We also teach about teamwork. The soldiers of the past were so divided along religion, along tribes, along education. They were divided. And as it were, divided, we fall, united, we stand. So the previous armies were so divided, and when the Tanzanians came, they failed, they collapsed. When the NRA struck the first bullet, they started falling apart because they were not together. The soldiers of UPDF are taught to work together. The security for one is security for all. So they know it. You are an artillery man, you are a helicopter man, you are an intelligence, you are a cook, you are a signaler. It's all a team, and it's a competent team that has been winning the battles. We also help them. I don't know. Even by that time, I don't think Uganda population was still small, and the health challenges were not as they are now, globally. But we teach our soldiers to be health aware. The health awareness is so tremendous. That's why we have almost significantly won at the front line of HIV/AIDS awareness. In the 90s, we had been badly battered by HIV/AIDS, but the president provided leadership by even making Uganda a model country to fighting HIV/AIDS. And UPDF was one of those to champion this, since we are the ones who started a joint clinical research center, the GSRC, which was supported by defense budget until it became independent. That center, working with us up to now, we've managed to minimize the risks of suffering from HIV/AIDS. So we teach them, we have recruited you, you are young, we've trained you, the country still needs you for more years. So we teach health awareness. Recently, we are beginning to teach them, now that there is some peace, and we want to take some peace dividend by teaching them financial education. To begin discussing the money challenges, we want to equip them with financial intelligence, which will lead them into financial independence, financial freedom. They used to be reckless. They got money at 10 o'clock. By 3 o'clock, they had already finished it, waiting for another month. When they got that money, it was squandered in promiscuity, squandered into useless things like giant radios and all that, giving away the money and drinking and all that. But now the awareness is catching on, and that's why our Wazalendo Circle is one of the biggest circles in the country, with about 62 members, and with billions, about 29 billion already saved. So that one is also catching up.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
If you can repeat that point, you said 62 members?
62,000.
62,000, yeah.
62.
So you can repeat.
No, 62,000 members with billions of money now already collected into the circle, and they are beginning taking loans. And recently we've discovered that these loans are very, very well utilized. We now have our own model farms, which will be sharing knowledge and experiences with other model farmers in government supported by NAD's program. So to speak, the surge of today is now fulfilling the constitutional mandate of Uganda should have a productive army. Now, because we were at the war fighting insurgencies and terrorists, we did not deliver on this mandate. But now that we have our hard-earned peace, we are already beginning focusing on our participation in the expanding our economy. We do not just be uniformed consumers, just not consume consumers. We will consume to the extent that we are able to protect the country, but also we have to save in order to participate in developing the country. And we intend, now also we have embarked on production to ensure that today's dominant, almost 40% of the salary being spent on food, to completely reduce it. Some of the soldiers could almost be spending 60% of their salary. So we want to deal with this food insecurity, improve nutrition of children in the barracks, and then moving to commercial production. In a few years, as UPDF in conjunction with the other ministries like Trade and Industry and Agriculture, will be exporting food out of our land. And we have land. The government gave us land. We have chunks of land for the time being which are empty. And we have already a master plan to embark on production. And we have identified maize and rice for commercial purposes. But other items, other crops, will be growing them in barracks, better improved seeds with the irrigation practices which the country has started, so that we have enough food for ourselves, so that we can save almost 100% of our salary for saving and then investing for prosperity. So the message of prosperity for all, UPDF is compliant by this moment as we go to celebrate our 50 years. So you have a combat-hardened, combat-focused in security of the people, but also a productive force, not only for food, but also in the industrial production, to produce our own weapons. At our royal industries, we have R&D, research and development, in conjunction with the other partners to support us in these researches. We are at advanced stages of becoming, to a certain extent, self-reliant in terms of weapons. But we are still a bit far away on that one because of the growth of the economy and the challenges we have faced of insecurity.
Sir, you have covered almost everything. You had one regional aspect, the welfare question, you have addressed them. Maybe finally we could ask, whenever there are promotions in the UPDF, they become political. Discussions in parliament, the media, the public domain. Is promotion haphazardly done?
No, Colonel Kureja, as I serve with you, we would do, you and me and others, we don't need lectures on this matter. We don't need lectures. And we don't need politicization of a professional matter like a surgeon in a surgeon's room. If a surgeon is conducting surgery, you cannot begin saying that why are they operating these ones and not the other ones? The surgeon can only operate so many people either per day or per month. Or you can want a hospital to handle the entire population sick, but they cannot. So promotions is a professional matter that is handled professionally by commissions and promotions board that is a part of the UPDF Armed Forces Act, was approved by Parliament. But the most important thing is to look at it into perspective and put it into context when anyone talks about it. Someone wants to think that we are the same, that we do the same things in the same way. No, 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 no. Our difference from others must be accepted and understood. Our methods of work are different. What am I talking about? I'm talking about our time-tested methods of work that have made us what we are, to protect the people and work with other sister armed forces in the region to do the wonderful things we have done. How do we do our work? We do our work through meetings. Let them also talk about meeting. Why do we meet more? We meet more than others. We work in meetings. We work through committees. We work through barazas. Vipindi vya siasa. In other words, we provide for an environment for all to make every soldier and officer to be part of it. We have inculcated what is called esprit de corps. That's a French word which was originated by Napoleon, esprit de corps. I have a sense of belonging. I'm proud of this, to belong to this, to participate in this. Because the leadership has provided enabling environment for all to participate. Having said that, we have also unique ways that we do our things. That the recruitment, this is the first time again in the history of Uganda when we celebrate that we have a people's army, not by name, but by belonging. The maintenance of national character is a celebratory matter for this country. Every tribe, every district, every ethnic group is given a quota to contribute into the security of this country. And the UPDF is composed by all members, the citizens of this country. Every district has a quota, and whenever we recruit, all those quotas are respected. So before you come to fault us on this, first check on how we recruit. And we cannot be inconsistent. That we are consistent on recruitment because of the constitution, that this army is for all the people, and then we undermine it by being biased on promotions. Not at all. Understand our recruitment. Understand our training. When we are training, we don't say this one belongs to that tribe, therefore he should train less, that one to that region, therefore he should not go for that course. No. And during graduations and pass-outs, the entire population is always welcome. I have seen public rallies addressed by the commander-in-chief at our graduations. I've never had a person complain that, Your Excellency, those who passed out, they did not include our tribe. I have not heard that. Can someone check on that before you come to this? We have justice system in the UPDF. It's been there in the open. Some of the cases, we try them in the open. When you steal soap or a torch in a shop of a Mwananchi and we arrest you, the court will sit in the veranda of that shop for all to see, and we have done it. We've done it in many, many areas. The justice system is open, transparent, and professional. So before they run for the promotion, let them check our justice system in the UPDF. Promotions are not done at one center. It's a participation of all. It begins with the unit committees. Unit, police and admin committee, PAC. The PAC sits and the chairmanship of its commander, and they deliberate their own names. They have their own criteria, which is again standardized, and then they submit their names through the channels If you are in the land service, a battalion will pass its record through the battalion park, brigade park, division park, to land forces headquarters to the general headquarters, commissions and promotions board. So there is involvement of all. Now, the criteria is also time-tested. It's time-tested and honored, and it has passed the test of time. They will look over and above your compatibility. Are you up to it? Have you been running away from battles? Have you been permanently absenting yourself? That is an area to go for as one of the criterion. They check on your discipline. You cannot be permanently drunk. You cannot be permanently womanizing. You cannot be permanently playing cards and betting, and then you hope to get a rank. Discipline. Your political consciousness. You cannot be found into criminality. You cannot be found undermining our political relationship with the people. You cannot be found partisan, and then you hope to get a rank. Over and above. If it's a cadet, it's a platoon commander course, company commander course, specialized courses of specialized arms, tank courses, artillery courses, pilot courses, all those courses, you must have done them. But also, we have promotions based on exemplary performance. Whether you have trained or not, if you go and catch the so-called Major General Caesar Acheram, a corporal is promoted to either a sergeant rank or a warrant officer class 2 because of exemplary performance. And they have been there. They captured Banya, they captured Caesar Cheram, they captured many of the Konyi guys. And that one is also provided for. Having said all that, the commanding-in-chief, with the powers entrusted to him as the Constitution, he may choose to promote an officer depending on what he wants to achieve by promoting, either by special assignment, either by posting abroad, either by wanting to have him educate others, teach others in a training school, and all that. So the commander-in-chief has the powers as in the Constitution, giving them authority. But all these are recommendations springing from the grassroots, so to speak, from the park, all the way to the commander-in-chief from the commissioners board. So the rumors, we've heard them, they are misplaced, they are politicized, they don't mean much. We are observing the requirements of professionalization and modernization of the UPDF as was stated by the president in 2001. And we have over time trained, and in any case, you don't want to promote someone when you know you still have a mission to accomplish. There's a mission to accomplish at home, protecting the people and working with the regional people to consolidate our gains in the region. So we mind about who gets what rank and to what purpose or to what ends.
So I would like to thank you for spending your time to talk to us.
PJ Facts.